and welcome to Straight Shooting with Dan and Joseph. Tune into this podcast to get the latest news on competitive shooting events and to learn how to become a better shooter. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and be sure to recommend it to all of your shooting friends. Well, welcome to everyone. Want to remind you to be sure and go to Facebook and Instagram, follow and like us for Ely and Kello Shooting Sports. My personal Instagram is Shooting Accuracy, and Joseph's personal Instagram is PS Photog.
PS.
So P for Paul, S for Stacker.
Or like postscript.
Postscript. Okay, postscript. So what, you're Joseph Paul? Okay. All right, very good. Previewing today's show, we've got some updates from around the country from the various shooting competitions. Joseph has got a good story about going to Florida. Him and Steve went out and shot the Florida Open this past weekend, and they're getting ready to head out to Rosenberg, Texas for the Henry's Cup just as soon as we get this podcast recorded. We got our straight shooting challenge. Joseph and I went out and shot our playing cards and had a good time with that. Like it froze, but hey, we got her done.
Yeah, that was in the cold and wind and slight sprinkle.
Yep.
Also,
it was not the best of conditions, but hey, we had a good time. We're going to go over tuning the rimfire rifle and the various apparatuses on that, our experiences with that, and exactly how we do it. And we'll finish up with bleeding off with Joseph, and he's going to go over the Florida Open and some training that he's doing. Originally, we thought we would have Blake Lyles with us today. He was not able to make it, getting busy, getting ready to go to Henry's Cup. But we'll have him with us next time. That's going to come over and go over some training tips from 415 training.
You didn't get to shoot very much last time we went to Rosenberg.
Yeah, he probably doesn't want to talk about that. All right, moving right along. All right, some match scores from around the country and some matches coming up. Our 50-50 in Piney Hill Indoor up in Luray, Virginia, had some 10-shot matches. They had big weekend for them on the 15th and 16th where they had the 10-shot Virginia State and then the 10-shot Mid-Atlantic Regional, and then came back the next day with the 10-shot national tournament. And on the first one up, Virginia State, third place Mark Mankin, second Bruce Hornstein, in the winner Scotty Weitzel won that. He had a big weekend. Then they finished up with the Mid-Atlantic Regional, and Bruce Hornstein was third, Mark Mankin was second, and Scotty came in first on that. They came back the next day for the national tournament. Tony Harper, blast from the past, came in third. Second place was Bruce Hornstein, and then Scotty won it. So Scotty really had a good weekend. Congratulations to him, and just basically cleaned everybody's clock that weekend and won everything they had. 50-50, the next big match they've got coming up will be March 21st and 22nd there in Luray, Virginia at the Piney Hill Indoor. They're going to do the Sporter Nationals on that Saturday, and then the Indoor 3-Gun Nationals on Sunday. ABRA, Auto Bench Rest Association, coming up some matches. The 22nd this weekend, San Angelo Gun Club, San Angelo, Texas, 10 a.m. start. Club match, Coyote Arms Shooting Center down in Edinburgh, Texas on the 22nd at 9:30 a.m. start. The 23rd, Fresno Gun Club in Fresno, Ohio, at 10 a.m. start. And then over into March after that will be the Belton Gun Club, Belton, South Carolina, 11 a.m. start. And March 8th, Fresno Gun Club, and back out in Fresno, Ohio. Now, that's the Auto Bench Rest Association. Now on to the American Rimfire Association, 22LR Bench Rest. I went out to Howard Prince Indoor Range on the, let's see, it was 8th and 9th, I think it was. And
that's in Louisiana.
Yep, Howard Prince. And there's like Lake Providence, Louisiana, and far northeast Louisiana. I mean, it's about as close as you can get to Arkansas and the Mississippi River and still be in Louisiana. Had a good time there, good crowd. The state tournament was Jason Thornhill in third, Jerry Bob Smith in second, and then Kenneth Richards won that. So congratulations to Kenneth on that. The next day we had the club tournament. Jim Moorhead came in third, Junior Groves in second, and Larry McGill from Mississippi won that one. Larry had a really good weekend on that, and I didn't have that great of a weekend, to be quite honest with you. I was about middle of the pack. Let me look at the results here. 20th. And basically what happened to me was it was cold starting off in the mornings, and then it warmed up. And as the day warmed up, I don't know if I got better or my gun got better or what, but
That's how it was in Georgia, I think, at Chickenfoot also.
Yeah.
Because it would be like cold and rainy in the morning, and then it would heat up. But then they also had those big heaters and stuff going.
Yep.
So it changes the whole time.
Yes. So I started off with a 2000, and then I had an 1875, which I'm not really proud of that. Then a 2175, and then finally, whether it warmed up or I finally got it figured out, and then I did a 2300, 2300, 2300. I couldn't get over 2300, but I was at least consistent there, and that was there on Saturday. And I believe on Sunday about the same basic thing happened to me. No, I was pretty junky all day long looking back at the score. So indoor shooting for you. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. I mean, honestly, when it's not working for me, I have a hard time figuring it out. It just it is what it is. It either shoots or it don't. And that weekend it didn't. So
You want to, since we're talking about tuners, if you're doing less than awesome, do you start twisting on that thing?
Well, I'll be honest, I did a little bit. But I don't. It's kind of my rule of thumb. I don't twist it far.
Well,
and it didn't. Honestly, it didn't help.
You shouldn't have to go very far.
Right.
On these.
And
if one's not working, you shouldn't have to go 3 full rotations to get it to do something.
My personal theory is with my gun and not being able to do so well in the cold is the 16 twist. I would like to try a 15 or 15 and a half twist and see what it does, because I know from experience with the 17, 17 and a half, they shoot extremely well in a lot warmer temperatures. And if you get in cold with the 17 or 17 and a half, that thing won't shoot in a bucket. It'll keyhole real bad. That bullet just does not stabilize. But if it's 90 degrees plus, those things will hammer down. So if it works going the other direction, maybe it works going in, if it works in that direction when it's hotter, maybe when it's colder, we need to go 15. I don't know.
And that's just the twist rate, you think? Not like the length or?
Right. I think it's just the twist rate. But there's some of them that obviously got it figured out because they had some really big scores. I mean, Larry McGill, he agged 2350. So, I mean, that was his average over the 6 targets. We had, I think it was 3 2500s. Larry had a 2500. Jim Moorhead had a 2500. And that was on Sunday. Trying to remember who had. There was a 2500 on Saturday as well. And looking through here, trying to remember who it was. Kenneth Richards was 2300, 2350, 2250, 2300, 2450, 2450. I mean, that's just smoking. He had 2350 ag too. So you had to ag, top 6 ag 2300 or higher. And Jerry Bob Smith, that's who had the other 2500. Jerry Bob from Louisiana there had the other one. So that was the third one. And anyway, same weekend, they also had a big match in North Carolina with the North Carolina State, and pulling it up here to give you the results on it. Don Kowalski was third, Chuck Morrell in second, and Tom Wilkinson was the winner of that at the Rocky River Barn in Albemarle, North Carolina. And that was on the 8th that he did that. All right, looking ahead here, we've got coming up Frog Level in Arkansas on the 22nd, and it's going to have the Arkansas State Tournament. Also on the 22nd in Virginia at Piney Hill and Luray is going to have the ARA State Tournament. And then on Sunday at Luray they have a club tournament, so double tournament weekend there coming up for ARA there at Piney Hill in Luray, Virginia.
So for ARA, you don't have to be from that state to compete or win
No.
the state tournament, right?
No. The way it works, every club can have 2 tournaments a year, and then tournaments are important because you get double points and that helps you win the club tournament or club championship for the year, the state championship for the year, and as well as the national championships. So all the guys chasing those hit the tournaments. The state tournament just gives another tournament in each state, and they'll do special trophies and whatnot for it. But no, it doesn't matter where you're from. You can win. You can win any of them. All right, what'd you have on results for USPSA?
In Florida, we were at the Florida Open this past week. I think it's a level 2 match. It's a pretty big match. That place is. It seems like it was specifically made for USPSA matches, because the way that it's set up is super easy. Like, you don't have to walk very far, and the bays are literally like, it's an alley basically, and you'll have like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. So you just go straight from one to the next. There's not a long, terrible walk in between each one. They go pretty quick. The top 5 overall, first place was Lesgar Murdoch. Second place was John Vlager. Third was Cody Baker. Fourth place was Anthony Bruno. And fifth place was Tom Castro. I believe they were all shooting open, so they're going to be major class. The class winners, for A class, it was Fernando Ferreira. B class was Brino Lima. C class was Eric Leopold. D was Danny Zlotnick. Master class, Anthony Bruno won that. And the Grandmaster class was Lesgar Murdoch, who, again, won the overall. I was talking to Anthony because he usually wins something. He watched my last stage, which I pretty much butchered. And I was just asking him how he did. And he's like, well, I think I did pretty good. I don't know how important winning the overall is compared to just your class, because I think all the class winners like won pistols. Each got one if you won the class. I don't know what you get for winning overall.
Well, they did a prize table where you come in by order of the way you finished for each class.
I don't know. We didn't stick around.
Man, you could have got something.
No, I wasn't going to win anything.
Man, that's the way we did it area 2, right? So so winning your class, you get first selection.
Right, but I think you also get another one for your overall.
Okay, I would imagine that varies from match to match depending on how the match director has it set up.
Right. Yeah, I was middle of the pack. Pretty close to what you did in Louisiana. I think there was 266 or 67 people total, and I was like 178.
Okay.
Ran somewhere in the middle.
So your 5th match?
USPSA, it'll be my
6th, 7th?
I think 5th. Yeah.
I think a 5th. Plus which doesn't count the big
European
handgun championships.
The IPSC matches don't count. Well, they count, just not towards like because I'm still not classified.
Right.
So hopefully, I don't even know if this one had a classifier in it or what stage it was, if it was in it.
Okay.
This was a super hard match. I was very frustrated.
All right, and we'll go into that a little bit more when we get to bleeding off with Joseph in our last segment of the day. So coming up, we've got the Henry's Cup down in Rosenberg, Texas, starting this, I guess they start tomorrow. It'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Joseph and Steve are about to head down there as soon as we get finished with this. So be sure and go down there and go by the Ely tent and talk to Joseph and Steve if you're in the area. All right, moving on to our straight shooting challenge. Remember to send us your videos of you doing these various things. We had a bunch of them that people messaged, but put it on the Kello Shooting Sports Facebook page. If you'll go to the Kello Shooting Sports Facebook page and put that on there of you doing it or a challenge that you have for us. We had a bunch of people that messaged me and texted me and did things
like
with a bunch of them.
A lot of buddies were just messaging me. They're like, dude, you need to do this. Something crazy hard that, what's that guy that used to be on?
Do all the shooting tricks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
He mostly used a revolver. I can't think of his name. but he used to shoot like pennies, like,
Right, right.
and even washers like out of the air with like a 38 revolver. Like, you could do that, and I'm like,
No kidding.
probably not.
All right, so some of them we got looking forward to that I thought were some good ideas was to shoot with a 22 and do a lifesaver and shoot through a hole in the middle without breaking the lifesaver.
Or a washer.
Yeah, you could do. We could do a washer.
Knocking it over.
Lots of guys like to shoot flies, so they'll put different. I figured just some good old catfish stink bait on the thing and bring the flies on there and shoot them up. But today, what we did for our challenge was we wanted to cut a playing card in half with a 22 at 50 yards. So anyway, we got out there this morning and did it. It was cold. It was windy. It was raining a little bit, and we put them up there. If you can tune in to our YouTube channel and watch the video of this, we've got these to where you can see them. I've got my jack of clubs, and we had the joker for Mr. Joseph. And so basically I shot it. We'll have the video on our YouTube channel too, so tune in there and you can see it. Joseph's getting that together, going to splice it up. We got a video on us shooting and a video on the playing cards as well. Basically, I hit mine on the first shot, and but it didn't cut it. I nicked it. Second shot, hit it again, but didn't cut it all the way through. Third shot, I missed. Fourth shot, I finally split it in half. So it took me 4 shots. So then we put up Joseph's, and Joseph shot, and first one, you
smoked it. This was my first shot.
You can see on the YouTube
top
channel.
Line, and it went, I don't know, 3/4 of the way across.
2/3, 3/4 of the way it cut it, and then left the rest of it attached, but it blew it off the stand.
Yeah, it knocked it off.
So
which, if it was a little steadier, I wonder if it would have cut it.
Probably not.
Probably, I don't know. I wasn't curious that we could do it. I was pretty sure we could do it. I just wanted to see how that bullet, once it contacted, because I would think that it would flatten. Maybe not like from the playing card, but I figured that it would flatten.
You think
out
the card
a
would
lot more.
bend instead of cut?
Yeah, like kind of smush, like kind of
yeah.
squash it, which I guess it sort of did. That may be what actually cut it. You can see on this one, it's kind of.
Yeah, it cut. So then he shot it again, and anyway, long story short, he did it in 4 shots as well.
Yeah, both took 4 shots.
Both of us took 4 shots. We tied. It was cold. We did not do a tiebreaker. So right now we stand tied, and you can actually see on yours where the next time. So first time you hit it is cut, and then the time that you actually cut it in 2 is a completely different shot. As to where, at least mine, it looks, at least it appears that I hit it in the same shot. But one thing that I noticed about this, all right, the cards actually wasn't straight vertical.
No, it was like this.
It was at an angle, but and the reason it was because what we used to hold it is one of the little things that kids use to hold playing cards.
I was wondering what that was.
That's what those are. Those are from when my kids used to play cards with us when they were really young, and they can't hold them in their hands, so they'd put them in there. So it has it at a slight angle. But
it was also a white backer, and like all I saw was white with like a little like pencil black line, and that's what I was aiming for, but it wasn't super easy to see.
But anyway, we did it. But with this one, you mainly just had to get your left and right down because of the windage.
Yep.
And we had
we did have
really
a
stout
good
left to right wind.
It was a strong crosswind, but it was
pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Blowing straight out of the north cold here in West Texas, but had a good time with that. All right, so what do you want to do for the next one? Another one I thought about too that somebody had mentioned, if we do with our 38 Super Comp pistols, shoot the hole in a donut at 20 yards.
Oh, easy.
Okay, then back it up.
Okay.
How far can we go back and still shoot the hole in a donut without actually hitting the donut?
Just go through it and not contact the outer part.
All right, send in your suggestions. What can we do with a 38 Super Comp shooting challenge to see who's the most accurate?
30 yards. That's a big hole.
It's a big bullet.
Yeah, but I don't know. That doesn't seem that hard.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll find out. Send us your suggestions on what we can do for that, and we'll see who can shoot that better and have a good time with that. We'll have that on our next episode. All right, moving along to Precision Shots, brought to you by Kilo Shooting Sports, your one-stop shop for competition shooting needs. And one thing that we get millions and millions and millions of questions on is how to tune a 22 long rifle in a rifle,
or what the benefits of it.
Yeah, does it work? How do you do it? How do you go about doing it? We've been doing this. I've been doing it ever since we got started in 22 rimfire. Originally, we had built a tunnel here at our place. I say a tunnel, an indoor shooting range. And basically what we built is 50 meters long, and it was an 8-foot wide by an 8-foot tall hallway. And it was on the edge of a big room, and we had a couple of benches in there, and we would shoot down just into a couple steel traps at the back end. Later on, Ely came in, we struck a deal and made that the Ely customer range, and they came in and put their tubes in and put all their mounts and everything in there, but we still are able to go in there and tune rifles for folks. It's a lot easier to tune in there because, one, you don't have any, you take out all external factors. You don't have to worry about temperature because we got climate controlled. You don't have to worry about wind. You don't have to worry about your point of aim because we've got it in the down in the fixture, and we're going to have exactly the same point of aim. You don't have to worry about, so that takes out the scope or any optical problems or anything. All we're doing is shooting and changing the tuner settings until we find that. And I got to looking. I was like, how many guns have we ever tuned? Looking back, I can safely, very easily say that we've tuned over 300 rifles. It very well could be quite a few more because we did it for several years and didn't really have much tracking on it. Some of the things that I have tried that I no longer do, a lot of people will take and tune with their best lot of ammo.
Yep.
And they'll tune it to that particular lot and get it shooting that day.
Yeah, but as soon as you change that.
Well, and honestly, that's the first thing I ever did too.
Yep.
I started tuning. I had my ammo. I would twist that tuner, try to get it shooting, and what I found was I could get it shooting good that day. Sometimes it took longer than others. So, but the problem was when I come back the next day, most of the time that it didn't work anymore. It was not shooting as well as it did the previous day, and I had to do it all over again. And of course, if you're coming in at a match, you just ain't got time to do that. You need to have it set and be able to go and do it. So then we started doing ringing the bells. Not ringing the bell. Like ringing the bell, we would ring the barrel. And we would take a stethoscope, put it on the forearm. We'd take the rifle, put it in our one-piece rest, take a stethoscope, put it on the forearm of the stock, and then tap the barrel, starting at the muzzle, coming up like an inch increments coming up the barrel, and tap it with our finger. We tried tapping it with all kinds of things. We did it with a stick. I did it with my finger. I did it with a one of those gunsmith type hammers that has the plastic head. Ding, 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 ding. Best thing I found that, anyway, it seemed to work was just doing it with my finger. And I would tap that. And what we were looking for is the dead spot. And you can find it to where it gets in there, and it ring, 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 and then you'll get to a spot and it just kind of thud. Well, if you put the tuner on the end of the barrel and move that weight in and out, you can move that dead spot up and down the barrel. And so we would turn the weight until we would get that dead spot as close to the muzzle as possible.
So that the harmonics are, I guess, more consistent until you get to the...
Right, so that kind of anyway, that was the theory, and that was how we did it. I even got it to where I bought an electronic stethoscope that you plugged into your laptop so that we could see the sound wave on the laptop, so that you could see the vibration on there, and you could tell when it would hit the dead spot. Boom, that little graph would go down to next to nothing. All right, that same thing, hit or miss. Ultimately, after we did that and tried it for a while, I didn't really think that it ended up working all that way. Well, so what we wound up doing is I got the method they call the Hopewell method, and that was because it was developed by Mr. Hopewell. And kind of to back up a little bit here, what we're talking about doing is tuning a 22 rifle, and we're talking about tuning it with weight. Because one thing I want to express, there's a lot of people out that do the Purdy prescription, which is based on sound and is a completely different method. And a lot of people do that and have had really good luck with it. We play with it and do it some. I'm still, for me personally, the jury is still out on that, on exactly how that works. I've seen people do it and be very successful with it.
I think if anything, I think it does work. But even if you like, if you're trying to make the argument that it doesn't work, it would still take a lot of the like guessing or shooting out of it, because it'll get, if it's not dead on, it'll be pretty close, which just based on the formula will eliminate a lot of having to shoot it more and using more ammo and more time, stuff like that. So even if it's not dead on, I think it can help prevent you from spending a lot of time and money on ammo and actually shooting.
Right.
But you won't know if it works anyway until you shoot it.
Yeah.
So you could very easily just tune the whole thing while you're shooting it.
So basically, to give you a background, Purdy prescription was developed by Anthony Purdy, and like I say, it has to do with sound waves, and so they are more concerned about the length of the tube beyond the muzzle and what the inside diameter of that is and how that affects the sound wave that is created by firing of the shot. And hopefully one of these days we might be able to get Tony on here to go over that. But they've got a formula that they do based on the length of the barrel, and they get very, very measured down to the thousandths of an inch on the length of the barrel. Then they can come up with what the length of the tube needs to be on the end. So basically the length of the barrel and the inside dimension of that tube, and they'll give you a length that gets real close, and then you can kind of move that in and out. To them, weight doesn't matter. So a lot of what I've been playing with now is trying to do both. So if you got a tube sticking out so that you get the Purdy prescription, if you do this tuner here, I'm holding an Ezel PDT tuner in my hand. You can see on the YouTube channel. It's got a bloop tube coming out of it. So if you can get that bloop tube to the right length, then you can take this weight. It's also got the weight that you turn. You can turn that weight and do whatever you want to and move it, and that's not, according to them, going to affect the Purdy prescription. So
the weight,
you can move it in and out, and it's not going to affect the Purdy prescription, and you can do more like what we do when we do just the weight. That's on there, and then I've got a Harrell style tuner here. So anyway, we'll discuss the Purdy prescription at a future date. Right now, we're going to talk about doing ours when we do it with weight. Basically, the type of tuners you got out there, kind of the tried and true, the one that's been around for years, is the Harrell's Precision. They manufacture one. It comes from the factory with a .750 internal diameter. You can bore that out for your barrel up to right at an inch. I think we actually get an inch and 16 thousandths is about as much as you can get. After that, you start running into the threads on the screws that clamp down. So what you do is you measure the barrel, your barrel, right at the muzzle and 1 inch back. We bore that out. It slips on and will bottom out. We tighten those screws and clamp it down. 20 inch-pounds is plenty. It's pretty small screws, Allen heads there, so you don't want to strip those out, but 20 inch-pounds. Typically, we're going to put it on there and leave it. Don't usually bring it on and off. We'll have a tuner cleaner that we can run a shotgun patch in there to get the powder out, and you do want to do that pretty regular because we're doing this based on weight. So if you don't clean that unburnt powder is going to build up in there, and it changes the weight of it. So it's going to change the tune. We've got the Ezel PDT tuner, and his is a little bit different. I mean, they're very, very similar in that they both have the main barrel there. you can turn and move that weight in and out. The main difference with what Mike Ezel's doing is he's got tungsten powder in there, which tungsten's powder has great dampening qualities, and he believes that you need to try to dampen that vibration. So anyway, it works fine. It's just a little bit more expensive than the Harrell, but it also does come with the bloop tube. When the Harrell Precision does not come with the bloop tube.
You can put one on it.
Now you can put one on it, but you got to buy that extra. These are also threaded, so you can add more weights to these. And so basically, what we do and how we do it, and what we've found works the best for us, is going and using the Hopewell method to find the best setting. And to get a really good explanation on exactly what the tuner is even doing, go to a website called varmintal.net. That's varmint with a V, V Victor, ARMINTAL.net. If you go to the Varmint Owl website, over on the left column, he's got a whole list of a bunch of different topics. And down there, he'll have one that's 22LR rifle and tuner. And he uses some graphics in there, super slow-mo, and kind of going over the top to explain to you what exactly is happening. He uses finite elemental analysis, kind of proving the thing. But basically what he concludes is the inherent problem with 22 ammo is the inconsistency in velocities from shot to shot. You cannot dial them in to where you have a really consistent shot-to-shot velocity like you can a centerfire, and we're stuck with what we got. I mean, even a really good lot of ammo over a 25-shot target, you're going to have a 20 feet per second extreme spread in the velocities. So what does that mean? That means a faster shot, as we all know, is going to hit higher on the target, and a slower shot is going to hit lower on the target. So,
and there's no way to know which, I mean,
nope, no way to know.
You can't determine.
Nope, not until it hits the paper, and then it's too late. So what we want to try to do, so that creates vertical stringing. We want to minimize that to where they're not, because in an ideal solution, that's going to be a perfect vertical line, and just right there, right straight up and down. We want to try to minimize that and get it down to where it's more of a round instead of stacked on top of one another. So you have to hang weight beyond the muzzle. Slide the tuner on there, clamp down. It's got a barrel on the tuner that you can turn. The Harrell Precision has markings on the base of the tuner that actually clamps on the barrel, so you can know how many revolutions you've turned in and out. And then it also has numbers going around the barrel of it, 0 to 24. So essentially you have 25 marks all the way around. And then it's got a little ball and spring on the inside that goes into these indents so that it clicks when you turn it. And I kind of hear that there as we turn that around. And pretty close, each click is moving at a thousandths. So if you turning it out, you're moving about a thousandths at a time. And so it has on the scale 0 to 5. So basically you can turn it 500 clicks. So there's 500 possibilities of where you're going to set this thing. So most of the time we look at that and go, man, 500, do I really got to shoot groups at all 500 spots? Well, no, that's where the Hopewell method comes in. So what we're doing when we're moving that weight in and out, we're trying to control that barrel vibration in the vertical barrel vibration, because what we want it to be vibrating so that when the bullet exits the muzzle, the barrel is on an upswing. And if the barrel is moving up, then that means a slower bullet is going to get there later and is going to be pointed higher, and a faster bullet is going to get to the muzzle quicker and be pointed lower. Mm-hmm. Now, the faster bullet is also going to not drop as much, but all of that counteracts one another to where on the paper at a said distance, 50 yards in our case, that you reduce that vertical stringing. So let me say that again. You want the barrel on an upswing. If the barrel is moving up, then a faster bullet gets there quicker, is pointed lower, and a slower bullet gets there later and is pointed higher, and that reduces the vertical stringing. And we do everything at 50 yards, so theoretically the tuner setting should be different if you're at 100 yards. I haven't done much 100 yard. I can't tell you that, but I mean that would be logical for me. And if you go to varmintowl.net, that's his conclusion on there. He can go through all the finite elemental analysis. He can show you everything. He's got it graphed, tested, does a really good job of kind of scientifically going about showing how that works. So how do you find that setting? 0 to, you got 500 spots. It could possibly be. Actually, it could be more than that. That's five, because this thing weighs 8 ounces. So you got 500, then you put more weight on it. Then every time you put more weight on it, then you got 500 spots. So what do? We're trying to get this thing to help us with the variations in velocity. So we want to do groups. And in those groups, we need a big spread in velocity. So in order to achieve that, we do not shoot one lot of ammo. We'll shoot 5 different lots of ammo. So we like to do 10-shot groups. The more shots in the group, the better reliability it is. 3-shot group, you just do not get as big a spread in velocity as you need. So we'll do a 10-shot group with 5 lots of ammo. So that'll be 2 shots from each of those 5 lots.
And they're purposely selected at ranging velocities, because we know the velocities of them, or that we know the average velocities of the lots that we're shooting. And so it's not like we're picking 5 that are between 1060 and 1065. It's like I've got some that are 1050, 1062, 1078. I mean, it's a pretty high range.
Yeah, big range. And remember, Joseph runs our Ely customer range, and so Joseph does this for us now. And I've trained him with this, and he's done quite a few on his now, and then we work together on that, and he does the shooting, and we look at them and go over the stuff, and he's getting to have a lot of experience doing this as well. So what we'll do is we'll turn that tuner all the way down to 0. Now we've got the nice thing of doing to an electronic target. Yep. So we are able to shoot 10 shots at the 0 setting, 2 from each at 0. Then we do 1 full revolution out. So basically that brings it out 25 clicks to the number 25. We'll do another 10-shot group, 2 shots from 5 different lots. And we do that 1 full revolution at a time from 0 all the way to 500.
And it's 25 because that's how it's set up on the dial.
Yeah.
It doesn't go from 0 to 500. It goes from 0 to 25 or to 24, because 0 would again be 20. It's either going to be 0 or 25. And so it's in 25 count increments.
Correct. And then there's a scale on the base piece that's on the barrel to let you know how your 1 revolution out, your 2 revolutions out, your 3 revolutions out, just much like a micrometer would do for you. Now, all right, so we've done all that. So then we look at the group size, and what we use is the average to center, and we'll go into that. That's another good episode topic to go over, how to properly measure group sizes and what's the best way to do. Some do outside to outside, or some do center to center, which is, those two are basically the same thing. We do the average to center, the average distance from the bullet placement to the center of the group. And what that does, well, anyway, that's what we use. And the reason we do that is that gives you the average distance, and 1 bad shot doesn't kill you. On a center to center, you can put 9 of them in the same hole and put 1 out 1 inch away, and you got a 1-inch group. Mm-hmm. On an average to center, you put 9 in 1 hole and put 1 out 1 inch, then it's just going to average all 10 of those differences, and that 10th one doesn't kill the group size near as bad. Once we've done 10-shot groups, 0 to 500, we got a little Excel doc. Joseph will type those in, that average to center measurement, and then we do a color coding on it. So we're basically, it doesn't sort them. It sorts them by color.
Yeah, it tells you which ones are the smallest group sizes.
So what it does is the lowest number is green, the highest number is red, and you have shades of green to yellow to red all the way in between. And it kind of looks pretty cool, actually, to where and I'll tell you what, we can do a short video and put it on the YouTube channel right out of one of those documents, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, so tune into the YouTube channel and you'll see what that document looks like. But it really shows you how the shots will come in and then come out and then come in and then come out as it moves through there.
And
so
one click, I mean, from, like, you can have it set at 100, and that'll be the smallest group, and 101 could be the biggest group.
Yeah.
I mean,
it can make a difference. Now, all right, so after we do 10 and we find there what we go through and look at the best ones, and we'll pick out the best 3 to 5 groups, just depending on how close they are to one another. Every gun's a little bit different, and we will go back on those and do 15 more shots. And the good thing about the way we're able to do it with electronic targets, now we can go back, and because we have exactly the same point of aim, we can put those 15 shots exactly on the top of the previous 10 shots, and then that
25.
gives us a 25 shot group. And 25 is a good number that we've settled on that gives you good results. And one of these days we'll have an engineer or Larry Landecasper on to explain on how many shots you need and whatnot. But 25 is one that we've kind of settled on with some of our engineers and number crunchers, that is enough to give us repeatability, and that we can be fully rely on the data that we're getting. If you have too few shots, it's just not enough data to give you a good answer. Now you can go as many as you want, but then again, I mean, you're burning out ammo, you're burning out time, and so 25 is the number we've settled on. So we'll go back and shoot the best 3 to 5 and make them 25 shot groups. Then we'll look and narrow it down to probably 2 or 3 of the ones that, because invariably what happens is a couple of those that were 10, by the time you do 25, 1 or 2 of them just blow themselves out of it.
Yep.
And you would think 10 shots would be enough, but it's not. You do 25 and all of a sudden it just starts spitting them everywhere, and doesn't work. So let's say, for example, 200 looks really good. So then what we'll do is we'll do 185, 190, 195, 205, 210, and 215. And we'll do a 10-shot group at each one of them. And same thing. Which ones look good? Do any of them look any better than 200? If they do, then you go and you add 15 more shots and you make them a 25-shot group. So then let's say 190 ended up being better and looked better than 200.
So 191, 192.
Yeah, so then we do on either side of it, because we've done 185 and 195, so then we'll do 180, 187, 188, 189, 191, 192, 193. And same thing on those. 10 shots look good, then make them 25.
You just chase it around until it stops improving.
Yeah.
Basically.
And a lot of times what it seems like on the really good shooting barrels is that we'll find it, and like these numbers we're using an example of, 190 is good. 191 was even better. 192 was good. 193, it fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
But there was like 2 or 3 right there real close together, and we kind of call that a window. We're looking for as wide a window as possible. About the widest we've ever seen maybe was 4. Most of the time we're plenty happy if we can get 3 that are side by side that do good 25 shot groups. So anyway, that's what we look for, and had the best results with. And then once we find that, we leave it. You may even lock it down. Mine, on my personal gun, I've got 2 guns. One's locked, one ain't. Some people don't like to lock them. They think it needs to move around a little bit. I haven't found that it makes any difference. But point is, we don't move it. Point is, we check it and make sure it stays the same. A lot of times pulling them things in and out of the case, you're going to rub that on the foam and it turns it. And you just got to be careful with that. And I'm a proponent of leaving it because we have adjusted for the change in velocities. And we have found what is the best group with the widest spread in velocities possible. So everybody says, well, what if we go shoot in Arizona and then we go shoot in New Orleans
Yeah.
and down in South Louisiana. Totally different conditions. You know, we may be up in the mountains in northern Arizona where it's dry and a high elevation, and then we go down to sea level and the high humidity. Well, in my mind, what does all that change? What does temperature change? If we're shooting in 30 degrees like I was talking about shooting indoors versus shooting 9 degrees outdoor,
Speed.
to me, that affects the velocity. The speed, the temperature affects the velocity of the bullet. Well, we've already compensated for the widest range of velocities by setting the tuner properly. What does the humidity change? It changes the velocity of the bullet. What does the density altitude change? It changes the velocity of the bullet. All of those things affect the velocity of the bullet, and we have the tuner set to compensate that. So that's why we set it and leave it. Now, again, if you're having a horrible day and you can't figure nothing out and nothing's going right, you might turn it a click or two. I mean, as a last-ditch effort. But I've never found that really helps for me. And I will say, if you look up and down the line at the guys who are shooting really well, they're not messing with it. And one reason they're not messing with it because it's working.
Yep.
But I can tell you that it's been my experience with some of the top shooters in the country. You rarely see them turn the tuner. Now, there's one huge exception to that though, and that's Joe Besh. Joe Besh from Jeff City, Missouri, has more ARA Hall of Fame points than I don't know if anybody will ever catch him. Joe's shot for years. He's won everything there is to win. National champion multiple times, and he turns that tuner more than anybody I've ever seen. And some days he will wear you out on it. So I don't know. Joe's got some kind of secret that he can figure it out. I've never been able to do it, and I can largely say he's about the only one I've seen that consistently do that and figure it out.
And be successful.
And be successful with it. The vast majority of people are not up there doing it. So anyway, that's kind of our thoughts and our experience with the tuner and going on with it. And hopefully you've learned a little bit, and that'll help.
And one thing, and this is just because it's something when people come in and tune with us, the way that they make these tuners, there's one, and I wouldn't even call it an issue, there's just something you have to be aware of, and that's that they don't all start at exactly 0.
Right.
Because of the way they machine them. So what I tell people when they come in is my starting point is not as far as it'll go until it stops, because that number will usually be different from one tuner to the next.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it'll start at 14, sometimes it'll start at 25, sometimes it does start at 0. So to eliminate that, I start at the first 0.
Okay.
And that's just what I tell everybody, because that keeps me from having to go back and look. Like if somebody says, if they lose their place, because sometimes because of where you have to start, you're higher up. Like, so you're actually at 350, but it looks like it's at 375 or closer than that. And so to compensate for that, I just tell people that we start at 0, because that keeps me from having to go back and not only see where I set it, but see where I started from also. So that way, if I'm like, oh yeah, yours was set at 350, but if they just look at the lines, that may not be indicative of where 350 is.
Right.
And so at that point, you can go all the way back to 0 and just count your rotations until you get to 350.
Yep.
But they always start at 0.
Yep. So what he's saying is if you turn the tuner all the way in until it bottoms out, and it can't go any farther in. If you look at the scale that's on the base part that's on the barrel, it may be before the 0, or it may have gone past it.
Yep.
And so what he's saying is, if we turn it in like this one, I turned it all the way in and it stopped, and 18 is straight up. So then we would turn it to 0.
Whatever the first 0 is.
First time you hit 0, and that's 0. So then later on, if you want to turn it back to 350, if you want to play with it, and then you want to turn it back to 200, you'll know your starting point and exactly what 0 is, and 200 is going to be 8 full revolutions out.
Yep.
All right, very good. Hope you liked that episode, and be sure and shoot us any comments you've got on tuning, maybe some methods that you've tried that work good for you. Always looking to learn as we move through this. All right, moving on to bleeding off with Joseph. All right, you just got back. We were originally going to do some training tips with Blake, excuse me, Blake Lyles today from 415 Training. He was not able to get in here today. We're going to get him on the next episode. And so Joseph's going to kind of go over a little bit of what Florida Open looked like and some training that he's doing now.
It was difficult. For sure the most difficult match I've shot. And that it's just because of the way that the stages made you think. Because there wasn't necessarily just more targets or more movements. It was, and most of the stages at big matches are like this. There's not just one straight way to shoot it.
Yeah.
So when you're planning it, the entire time that you're doing your walkthrough, you're like, okay, I think I got it. Well, then you might see, and I try not to pay attention to what other people are doing unless I've got like a GM in my group or whatever, and then I kind of look at what he's doing. But there may be, you think you've got it down, and then you walk through it again, and you see a target that you missed, or something like that. It's in a weird spot, or it's hidden behind something, and you can only see it from a certain way. That's how every single stage at this match was. And there was also a lot of moving targets. And that added another aspect, not just because it's a target that's moving, but because it was not a level 1 match. Because in level 1, I didn't realize this until...
Yeah, this was a learning experience
until
for
they
me too.
told me here, was, so in a level 1 match, which is most of what I've shot with USPSA, you can designate if you can engage a target before or after it's been activated, if it's a moving target. So you can actually stage.
So what he's talking about for our non-USPSA shooters,
Yeah.
a lot of times they'll have a paper silhouette target that's on a swinger to where that thing swings back and forth, and you'll have to shoot a steel popper or a steel plate
To activate
first that activates that thing to start swinging. Now, sometimes they'll stick them behind barrels to where you cannot even see it before you hit the activate the steel popper. But apparently here they had some that you could see.
Some of them you could see them, and
so you can shoot that. What he's saying is you can shoot that swinging target before you actually make it start swinging.
correct. And there's no penalty for it. I mean, it's actually easier. And
Yeah,
that's
it is. It ain't moving.
because I guess level 2 and 3, that rule goes away for the match director.
So the match director has to designate yes or no, and if they don't say anything about it, then you do it however you want.
No, you can't do that in these higher matches.
Oh.
That the rule of
So if they don't want you to
being
shoot it,
able-
then they need to hide it
correct.
to where it make you activate it.
Correct. To where
so
it's
it become
not
visible.
visible either at rest or before it's activated. Because some of them weren't visible at rest. So even if you activated it, if you miss the window that it's visible, it's gone forever. Like you can't
Right.
see it anymore after it stops.
Yeah.
So on this one, I figured that out, and I actually did that on one of the stages. It was in like a little shoot house, and there was a swinger, but it was completely visible at rest, but it was just laying sideways. And so you can look through this little window, and you can see it easily. Well, the activator for it was way on the end of the stage, and that was one of the first targets that you saw. So if you just told yourself, you're like, okay, I'm not going to shoot that at the beginning. So I ran through the whole thing, and then the activator was actually the last target that I ended up shooting for that whole stage. And so it looks kind of dumb, but I mean, it works. And so if it works, why not do it? Other people may. I mean, there was a lot of guys that thought the same thing I did. I was like, you have to act like you can't do that. You know, what are you doing? And they just understood the rules better than I did. And so once I was told that, then I kind of took advantage of it. But it was just a really difficult match for me personally. with the exception of like 2 stages, they were all 29 to 32 round stages.
You're open.
It doesn't matter. You still have to reload.
Well, yeah, you got to reload once, but still, you only had to
And,
reload once.
But that on top, I mean, it comes down to fundamentals, and you throw these long stages in that have a lot of targets to look at.
Yep.
And even if you're shooting open, you got 27 rounds, you'll forget to reload because I kept getting flustered, and I would either miss or I would take like half step too far, and I would lose my window. Like,
yeah,
I had staged it to where, I come around this way, take 3 steps, target's open here, take 1 small step, and I can see it over here. Well, a little bit of a little half step, and now it's gone. And so when that happens, my reload goes out the window. Like, I don't remember when I was going to reload, that I even needed to. And so I would get at the end of these stages and go, bang, 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 click. Well, there's 2 targets left in the whole thing. Like, do you just leave them?
Yep.
Do you reload? Try it just as fast as you can and try to get them? I mean, a lot of that was happening to me the entire time.
And here's something, and I'm sure all of you experienced USPSA shooters know this, but what I learned the hard way, and Mark had told me this, and I forgot to do it, is if you know you're going to do a reload, don't have a completely full mag.
Right.
Because I did that last year when we were at Rosenberg, and I slammed up a completely full mag and went to shoot, and that darn thing, it had too much resistance on it, so it didn't catch. And so when I let go of it, the mag just fell straight back out the bottom. And I was like, "Dadgummit." So then I had to load it again. And
and that's why. So when I make ready, I'll have my back mag, and that's the one that I'll Barney up with.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll move that to my next reload spot on my belt. And so that one's not fully loaded. Even if there's, if my gun's not empty, it'll still load in there pretty easily. But it just came down to fundamentals. And like on, smaller matches, it's easier to kind of get caught up in trying to go really fast and, trying to burn them down. But whenever you add these long stages with a lot of things that you have to think on, that's the first thing that goes out the window for me is fundamentals, because if you have a 20 round stage, you don't have to reload, so you don't have to think about a reload. So the fundamentals to me, get exposed more when you're on these difficult matches. And so that's something that I've been working on, and I was working on it already, but it just slapped me in the face how terrible I was at basic things shooting this match. So that's what I'm doing, just a lot of draw drills, just from the belt, getting it up as smooth as possible. I mean, as fast as I can, but acquiring my sight picture. Because, your movement's easy after you've drawn. So that's what I've been working on a lot, getting my sight picture as fast as possible without having to fish around for it. And something that Blake showed me, which is, he called it a 20 alpha drill. And it's basically, it's 4 distances, and you shoot 5 rounds at each one. So the first one is at 5 yards, 10 yards, 15, and then 20 or 25. And what that helps you with is, for one, your cadence. And so at the closest one, it should be beep, drop, bang, 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 pretty fast. You can hose it and still get good hits. And the whole point of this is to do it as fast as you can at each distance and still get, the goal is to get all alphas, which usually doesn't happen unless you're just really good. So that helps me with cadence, and it also helps me with my throttle control, which kind of goes into cadence, but at that point you can actually determine, so when you're staging something, if it's a close target in your head, instead of just going, okay, there's 3 targets, I'm going to come up and go blah, 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 blah. That's not what you're going to do. You're going to come up, and if they're close, you're going to go bang, 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 bang. If this one's far, it's going to be more like bang, bang. That's your cadence. So that really helps me with that. that's mostly what I've been working on because it works multiple things. It works your draw, your side acquisition, your cadence, your throttle control, and it helps you understand, or it helps me anyway, understand the speed at which I can operate certain distances. Because, I mean, some of them are going to be right there in your face. You still need to aim, but it's not as crucial. You have a lot more forgiveness there than like a 20, 25-yard target. So that's really the main thing that I've been working on, and then just super basic fundamentals that I won't forget whenever I get flustered or frustrated, or if I miss, and instead of thinking about my reload, I'm thinking about my miss. And so that's what I've been working on.
All right, very good. So they're loading up, getting ready to head to Rosenberg, like we said, for the Henry's Cup, and we'll be back. All right, that's going to conclude today's episode. We thank everybody for tuning in. Be sure and tune in a couple more weeks, and we're going to go over, again, we'll do the same thing. We'll have our shooting challenge. We'll have some recaps and some match scores from around the country. We'll go over how Joseph and Steve did down in Rosenberg at Henry's Cup. On the other side, I'm going to come in and we're going to talk about bedding rifles, how we do it here and why we do what we do. Why do you need to bed your rifle? We should have Blake Lyles here from 415 Training. We'll go over some training and drills with him, give us a lot of USPSA type stuff for next time. So remember to subscribe to the podcast, and please share it with all of your shooting friends and encourage them to listen to it. And we appreciate y'all tuning in. Have a good day and keep shooting straight.